What's going on, everybody? Baird here with Spec of Tech. Welcome to the channel. Today we're going to do a bit of a teardown and have a look inside the Arendal 1723 tower speaker. So we're going to have a look at the drivers and a look at the crossover just to kind of see the quality of parts that they're using. If you guys are interested in the review, I'll drop that in the top right hand corner of this video so that you can check out what my thoughts are on this speaker. But today's just going to be about the teardown and having a look inside. So let's get right into this speaker. So I did turn the camera off for a second just so I could see how this tweeter was mounted into the speaker, and it seems to be mounted from the inside. So I'm not going to remove the tweeter just to avoid damaging anything, because it is going to be difficult for me to get my hand in there to remove all of the screws. But I did want to get some footage of it, so I'm going to get some footage so at least show you guys what the tweeter looks like. But just so you know, it is well mounted. Everything seems to be connected with these electrical spade connectors on the inside, including the tweeter. But we'll have a look at the crossover as well. But so far so good. These 8-inch drivers are pretty robust. They got some nice weight to them. Seems to have a nice solid magnet structure as well. But I'll maybe get a weight of them so I can tell you guys later on in the video. But let's continue dismantling. All right, so again, I have the terminal plate removed, but there's a lot of connectors back there, and I don't want to mess around too much with it. So I'll maybe just get some footage of the crossover so that you guys can see it. But everything seems to be pretty good quality. They are using sandcast resistors for those that care, and air core inductors, but seems to be pretty good quality. All right, so let's talk about the insides of the Arendal 1723 towers now that we've taken out some of the drivers. I didn't want to bother taking out all the drivers simply because the 4 8-inch drivers are exactly the same, and I did realize that the top 2/3 is pretty packed with polyfill, so I don't think we're going to be able to see much anyway. So I just took out 2 of the drivers, and I had a look at the tweeter, and I did take the the terminal plate off of the back to have a look at the crossover as well. But again, it is connected with several wires, so I didn't want to mess around with that. But I did get some footage of it from the side. I tried to actually get some footage from through the front of the speaker here, but there's so much polyfill in the way, and of course it's attached, because they don't want the polyfill all falling down to the bottom. I'm not even sure how they attach it, but it feels like with screws, so I didn't want to rip that out and then have all the polyfill fall to the bottom. So the first thing I noticed when I took it apart, obviously, is the cabinet. It is made of high-density fiberboard, or HDF, so it makes it a quite sturdy speaker, but it's also quite heavy as well, and it helps reduce resonances. But to further help reduce the resonances, they do have a lot of bracing in there. There seems to be a brace that comes basically all the way up the vertical, or the height of the speaker in the middle, and then of course there's also some horizontal bracing to help reduce resonances. And on top of that, they probably use more polyfill than I've ever seen in a speaker or a subwoofer before. The top 2/3 is pretty packed full of polyfill, which is why I wasn't able to get any good footage of inside the cabinet, because I didn't want to have to remove all this polyfill. But clearly you can see that the cabinet is quite well built. And it's actually something I noticed when I go to Arendal's website as well, is they're not only proud of the sound of the speaker, they're very proud of the build quality of the speaker, because they didn't just cut all the corners that they could to make as much money on these speakers as possible. They actually used some high quality parts because they're proud of the build of their speakers. Moving on to the crossover, again, it's something that they were proud of on their website. They actually showcase their crossover. They talk about their crossover, which isn't common in today's day and age with speakers. So I'm really glad to see that Arendal is saying, hey, here's what we're making our speakers out of. Here's the crossover parts that we are using. A lot of speakers try to hide that because they're cutting as many corners as they can to try and save money on the crossover. But I did point out that on the back of the terminals, they are using some magnetic metal, so probably some steel. I know that there are some YouTubers out there that don't like this. They think it's a big deal. So for those of you that are curious, yes, there is some magnetic metal being used on the back plate of the speaker terminals. But even the terminal plate itself is a piece of brushed aluminum, and it's quite large. So they, again, weren't just trying to cut every corner possible. A lot of speakers will just use a little piece of plastic, a square piece of plastic, or if they are using metal, again, they're going to use a very small piece of metal. Arendal steps things up again with even the terminal plate itself, and the terminals are rhodium plated copper. So again, kind of taking things to the next level, not just cutting every corner that they can. And that just seems to be the theme that I found when taking the speaker apart. So I wasn't able to get the tweeter out because it is mounted from the inside, so I apologize for that, guys. I did try to get some footage of it from the inside, which I'll show here, but it is the neodymium magnet that they state on their website. And again, I want to give kudos to Arendal for just kind of laying it all out on their website and saying, hey, here's what we're building our speaker out of. Here's what we're doing. We got nothing to hide. You either like it or you don't like it, but here's what we're making our speaker out of, which a lot of speaker companies aren't doing in today's day and age, so respect to Arendal for doing that. All right, so let's move on to the 8-inch drivers, which we do have 4 of them in this speaker, so I didn't bother taking them all out because first of all, there's so much polyfill you wouldn't be able to see anything anyway, and secondly, they're all the same, so there's no point in taking them all out just to show that they're all the same. But you do have a pretty hefty magnet structure here. I did weigh them on our kitchen scale, and the drivers are 7.5 pounds each. You do have the leads that are woven into the spider, so that's to help reduce any lead tapping on the cone itself. And again, just it's a cast basket, so it's pretty sturdy. It's got some weight to it. It seems very well built, very hefty 8-inch driver. And again, they're using 4 of these in their speaker. So I am really glad that I decided to take this speaker apart and have a look at the components for myself and share it with all of you guys. Not that I don't trust what Arendal is saying on their website. Of course, I do trust that they're not going to lie to people, especially when they have it all in writing on their webpage. So it's just really nice to kind of get your hands inside the cabinet on the components themselves, because if there is going to be some shoddy workmanship, or if there is going to be some corners cut, it's easier to obviously find those things if you're taking the speaker apart and having a look inside yourself. And that's kind of where I was at with this video, is I wanted to just take things out, have a look inside the cabinet myself, because if there was corners cut, that's where you're going to find them, is inside the cabinet. They're not going to cut corners on the outside of the cabinet where you can see it. If they are going to cut corners, it's going to be on the inside of the cabinet, it's going to be on the components. And I'm glad to say that Arendal did not do that. But I'd love to know what you guys think of the speakers and the components as well after I've showed them to you here. If you have any questions, or if you have anything else that you'd like to know, drop that in the comments down below. If you guys are interested in purchasing these speakers after seeing the inside of them, I have dropped links down in the description below, and please do use my links, as it does help out the channel and it doesn't cost you guys anything. But that's it for this video, guys. Remember to enjoy your systems. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.